Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their Pitch Right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Building a DIY electric all-in-one, simple ways to lager, does my keg need to be cold when using a Jockey Bots, and taste differences after splitting a 5-gallon batch into 2 kegs. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 266. Hello and welcome to another fun-filled episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we provide the answers to your homebrewing questions, or we supply them, and also discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. My name's Joshua Stubing, and I'm joined by the director, James isn't here, the president and chief keg washer of kegconnection.com, Mr. Todd Burns. Todd, cool beanie.
Thank you. I want to thank our sponsor, Carhartt, as well. Do you want to show them yours?
I mean, not planned at all. Right before we started recording, I go, "Oh, we're Beanie Brothers," and then I saw.
So here's the deal. I did take a shower this morning, but I came into work and I was running around, and it's super, super cold outside. So I just thought it was better than doing the show like this.
At least you
look at that hair, huh?
At least you have hair, you old jerk. I'm not bitter at all. It was funny because I wear you made a comment, how do you young people wear beanies inside? Oh my god.
Oh god. I don't like wearing these things when it's super hot inside. I see these hipsters wearing these in the middle of the summer in Texas. It's like 105 degrees. They're pumping gas and they have one of these on. I'm like, have you lost your mind?
I was given this beanie as a gift like 4 years ago, and I wore it one time, and some guy was like, "You wearing a Carhartt beanie? Can you do Carhartt stuff?" And I was like, No, sir. I do not do Carhartt stuff. I don't even know what it means, but I don't do it. I know that. Like, if it means being handy or something.
Go ahead. Sorry.
If it means being like handy or like blue collar, no, it's not me.
So can I brag on a beer?
Yeah.
Is it okay on the podcast?
Whatever you want to do, man.
So this had a beautiful head, and it stayed for a long time, but it took too long to get everything up and going on the podcast, so it kind of fell, and I was drinking it. But anyway, this beer is supposed to be an amber, but I'm going to have to rename it because I miss the color. But the taste of this beer is just outstanding. Wow.
It's
I
pretty
just
amber.
kegged it last night.
I mean, maybe it's your camera and lighting. It looks relatively amber.
I would say it's a in between a pale ale and an amber. It could be good. An amber, right?
You just kegged it?
Yeah.
It looks good.
Last night. And I tried it last night, and I was like, it's not exactly what color I was wanting. I got the alcohol a little too high because my damn system's too efficient, and I was whining about the beer, and then I carbonated it, and I took a sip of it, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a good beer. It's really good.
Is it the return of the drunk on the right? Is that who we're getting today? In case y'all didn't know, dry January is over.
No, listen, I deserve this beer because I drove through hell to get to the office today.
Why are you at the office? Like, it's iced over. We're lucky to have electricity right now. What are you doing there? I thought no one else is there.
I just decided that I had to come in and get some of the orders done, even though they're not picking up. I don't want to be so slammed. Vilver was nice enough to meet me here, and we actually have probably packed together over 20 orders already, and shipped a good deal of them.
Vilver,
and we are going to drop stuff off at the post office because they're open, but I don't know if FedEx is picking up.
But Vilver's only half a mile from the office. You're 18 miles, give or take. What?
It was a drive that was a little scary because there's a really big hill after you leave there's a hill coming down from my house. There's a really big hill going up, as you're very aware, and then there's another big hill coming down. And I was a little nervous, but it wasn't the typical ice. We got lots of ice, and then we got snow instead of getting snow and then getting ice or having it melt and ice over. So it's really not as slick as you would expect.
Well, that's good for you, because I know my neighborhood, we are kind of stuck, or we were. I mean, it's going to clear up. Tomorrow. We are getting out of the freezing temps tomorrow, so with the sun and everything, it'll thaw out. I don't believe you guys are getting out of freezing, though, are you?
It's changed back and forth, but it was super cold. But anyway, I'm here. I'm trying to pack orders, and
try talking to the mic too.
I'm not very good at it, but it says right now it's 19 degrees, and I know there's people up north going, "Oh, come on, give me a break! It's 19 degrees. Why are you bothering to even talk about that?" But that's kind of cold for us. Tomorrow it is supposed to get to 33 for about an hour, so I don't think it's going to thaw out. And then it drops back down to 14.
My wife's cousins live in Michigan, and watching their feed of them drive, like the snow covered roads, blizzard conditions, and everyone's driving around like it's nothing, and their grocery stores aren't wiped out of all that. Like you go to our grocery store, which in my area it's called HEB, and they're big in Texas. You go to our HEB and everything's wiped out, and not just like in that whole the economy and everything's wiped out, how some people take photos of. I mean, like everyone was freaking out this week. Oh, the winter's coming on.
I drove 18 miles to work, and I saw one vehicle on the road besides mine.
Was it TxDOT?
And it was it was a utility company.
Yeah, exactly. I knew it would be somebody who had to work, because you shouldn't be on the road if you don't absolutely have to. But let me segue this, because it is the dry January's over. You're drinking again. You have been brewing up a storm and kegging up a storm. I know you've got. We've kegged the Lemon Drop Pilsner.
Yep.
And that amber, I say amber.
It's not an amber. It's a
pseudo amber.
I don't know. I'm still trying to decide what to call it, because I don't want to change anything, because it's my most favorite beer I've brewed in a long time.
What hops did you use in that one? And the not amber?
I'd have to look the recipe. I've brewed 5 recipes in the last. I have brewed 5 recipes in the last 6 weeks. So it's some of it's starting to run together. I brewed a really nice, I think it'll be a really nice double yesterday, a Belgian double, but it's not bubbling. And the yeast I used was a little old. It wasn't Imperial's fault. I grabbed expired yeast and threw it in there because it had just expired.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to have to get some dry yeast and take it home and hit it with that.
Now I know why you went to the office. To do orders, not to get yeast for your bag.
No, because, Amazon is real militaristic about getting orders shipped out. And we already have like a warning. So if we didn't ship out these 9 orders today, they could literally kick us off Amazon.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry I didn't drive up there to help you.
Well, James wasn't here either.
I was up there yesterday.
I'm saying that hoping he listens to the podcast.
He watches this later.
Because he was like, "Oh man, I'm sorry I didn't come up there." After he found out I was here, I was like, "Dude, there's absolutely no reason for both of those."
No, and technically his drive's longer too, isn't it?
About the same.
Y'all are about
I
the
think.
same. Yeah, but that
Yeah.
would not be smart for either one. So yeah,
Anyway,
so in the
we
small
got
talk,
questions, right?
no, hold on. You've been brewing and kegging a bunch. January's over. Brew Day Live. We had a Brew Day Live last Friday with our buddy Daniel on the Brow Tag. I have it in our show notes here to recap it real quick. What I love the most about the Brew Day Live was how much fun Daniel had with brewing on his new system. Like the Brow Tag is one of those. I mean, I think Herm's Brewing in general, but because we made the Brow Tag, let me just push that and peddle it on y'all. It is so much fun and addicting that it makes you just want to continue to brew. And Daniel had never brewed before, period. That was the craziest part of that whole thing. He came up, he was like, yeah, hey, I'm Daniel. I'm picking up the Brow Tag and learning how to brew. Oh, cool. Tell us a little bit about your brewing experience. I don't have any.
I've never brewed in my life.
I've always been.
I'm going to start out with a 3-tier BrowTech system, but I've never brewed in my life.
I love it.
And the guy really picked it up fast too.
Fast,
he was really good.
I think that's a testament. Well, he's obviously really smart. He works like as a data analyst or something. We're talking.
I would say that he's on par with you on brewing after one day.
Oh, wait, is that a slight? Wait, is that a compliment to him or a slight at me?
A compliment to him.
Oh.
And a swipe at you. Yeah.
It's both.
I got a double there.
Jerk.
It was a double.
I don't like it when you drink on the show. So we had the Brew Day Live. We're going to do one a month. The one in February will be later this month. We'll make the announcement. But we're trying to also coincide them as much as we can with our Trub Club recipe kits. The Trub Club recipe kit for February is, let me get it on the screen. Todd, don't say anything because I know you can't see it. Boom, there it is. The Dusseldorf Altstadt Alt Beer, which
I don't see anything.
Which includes Kaiser from Imperial Yeast, which I put on the artwork, which you can see right there, Todd. If you look,
I don't see.
No,
it.
no. You just have to look harder at your screen. Right there. It's right there. You don't see it. Anyway, so join at any recipe receiving tier, and all the details are at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Also, when you are in our Trub Club at any level, from the $1 up to the $150 level, you are entered every month into our monthly giveaway. Last month, we did the Beer Line Cleaning Kit and Sand Step. Our buddy Nick won that. Congratulations, Nick. And for the month of February, I'm giving away a dual body tap right regulator. Look at that picture right there. Todd, do you see that picture on your screen?
I do. Wow. You finally got it to work.
You're such a liar. I like that though. That was good. But so anyways, if you go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, join our Trub Club, you're supporting the efforts of what we're doing. All that money goes to supporting my small children. That's how I'm trying to get people to sign up. No, it keeps the lights going. It keeps us doing what we're doing, and we greatly appreciate you. Even those who are in our community that aren't in our premium, quote unquote, premium levels of Trub Club, we thank every single one of you for downloading the show and supporting our efforts. It really does mean the world to us. So with all that, yes, Todd, we do have questions this week, but before we get to any questions, it's time for listener feedback. This listener feedback had me in stitches. It's from our buddy Fred, using our hotline at 325-305-6107.
Hey, Joshua. Just wanted to say I enjoyed this week's show, but I think you spent way too much time on talking about filtering beer. By the way, this is the Blind Brew Guy, so take it for what it's worth. Cheers.
Isn't that great? Wasn't that great?
That's just wrong.
I was dying laughing when I heard, because I didn't see that it was from Fred, because I have his number saved in my phone, so you'd think it would have shown his name first, but it just said new voicemail, and it showed the transcription through Google Voice. That's what we use, and it said, you spend too much time, and I was like, oh no, not more critical feedback of me and what I'm doing. No. And then
he probably only filters beer when it's chunky, when he can feel it. Right?
But yeah, Fred, he's one of my favorite people in our community. But anyways, we do have 4 questions for y'all this week. Coming from our first question, our buddy Nick, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Nick wrote, I recently purchased the 30-quart kettle pot from Keg Connection. I am a tinkerer with the vision of creating my own micro 3-gallon batch electric all-in-one on an extreme budget, and I'm wondering where the best place to put a thermowell is. I'm assuming I want it as close to the element as possible so that it's reading the hottest spot, and the temp controller will then err on the low side rather than the high side. My element is going to be located under the false bottom, so the thermal well would be as well. Am I correct in this assumption, or do I want it closer to a center height? Cheers, Nick. That's a great question. You know, I saw people when we first put those kettles on sale talk about, oh, I'm going to use one to ferment in, right? Like making it its own little. People are getting creative when they are trying to save money. Where there's a will, there's a way. So Todd, you know, with the Brow Todd, we have some experience turning kettles into not an all-in-one, but obviously a mash tun kettle and a boil kettle with thermal wells and whatnot. Do you have a preference with where the thermal well is located for the best reading? I know with the Brow Todd, we have 2, right, in our mash tun.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's saying under the false bottom, but we don't, I don't understand. So he's going to, what is his system? It's going to be, because, you know, we have 3 vessels. So we have the first one is the hot liquor tank. The second one, it obviously has the false bottom. It's a mash tun. And then the third one is where you do the boil. So I don't really understand.
I suspect
what he's doing.
Trying to make his own mash and boil. That's what I got from it, where it would be, I mean, the 30 quart is not that big. It's not that big of a kettle. I don't know. I imagine he'll be able to yield 3-gallon batches out of it with even with the false bottom and having to make room for.
It's 7.5 gallons.
I know. Yeah. I'm just saying that. Do you think he'll be able to easily yield 3-gallon batches with that kettle? Turning it into an all-in-one. I'm saying, so you got to have room. He's going to make room for the element at the bottom, which will be underneath the false bottom.
I would think he could get close to 4 or 5. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Because of the false bottom. I don't know. I've never even thought about making my own all-in-one. So I'd have to think about it a lot.
The Anvil Foundry, I think, for a 5-gallon batch is like 10.5 gallons, right? Is the volume size, and that yields about 5 gallons. And so I'm saying for Nick, if he's only doing pails and kolsches, which I'm okay with, Nick, then he could probably yield more. But I'm saying he's probably safe. He's probably safe to yield 3. But I guess the actual meat of the question he wants us to answer is putting the thermal well underneath the false bottom with the element, you know, for its temperature probe, is that going to be a safe place? My opinion is yes. It's for what he's doing. If he doesn't want to put multiple to get readings, like that's why James on our mash tun has 2. He has one near the bottom on the Brow Todd and one in this like kind of center.
Yeah, but to be fair, they're not in the vessel at all. They're coming in and going out in line. So the only 2 that are in the vessel are on the HLT and on the boil side, and they're actually in the vessel itself. And on the boil, which would be probably a good example of this, it's a pretty good ways up above where the element is. I would say maybe 4 inches. I'd have to go measure it, 4 or 5 inches. So not a lot, but it's a pretty good ways up. I mean, I wouldn't put it too close to it, or you're always gonna. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you do that when you're trying to do all 3 in the same vessel. I've never done that before, so it's hard for me to say.
So we needed James on this episode?
Yeah, no, I don't think James has ever done it either. I mean, I think you wouldn't want it you definitely don't want it too close to it because
then it will read on the high side.
Is he I don't know if he's circulating either. I don't know what he's doing.
He did not include that. And you're right. So if it's too close,
I would find a way to circulate.
If it's too close, then you're confident it would err on the higher side, like that. It's reading higher than your probable total wart it actually is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming he's going to circulate in this thing. And if he's circulating, I wouldn't want it right next to it because what you want is kind of the medium. So I would move it a little ways away from it.
So like center height. So
not too high because there's disadvantages of that too. So, maybe 1/3 of the way up or
Or,
I mean, somewhere in that range.
okay. Yeah. And let's assume, because some people who do DIY, from my very limited anecdotal bubble of Google searching before this, it's more like the original mash and boil. A lot of them don't do recirculation because part of the whole I'm doing it on an extreme budget is saving money even on a $30 pump, which I don't know if you can actually find a decent pump for $30 anymore. But like the ones that James used to show when he converted our mash and boil. Go ahead.
If you're not going to circulate at all, I just don't understand why you would do that versus using like the ice, the cooler method.
Well, first off, he's making micro batch. He's making them in 3 gallon. He's probably an apartment brewer, or indoor limited space. There's a whole movement of these people. It's not just it doesn't make sense to Todd Burns, so why would anyone else do it? There's different strokes, different folks, man. He might be living in an apartment in Manhattan and wants to brew a 3 gallon batch of beer. That could be. Are you reading? You put your reading glasses on. Look at you.
Yeah, I'm reading it again.
There's no other.
You're missing something.
No, I didn't miss any. I read it exactly how it was in my inbox. You think I do more? I copy and paste from the inbox.
I mean, I would say this. I don't have enough information to answer this question.
Okay. I think we do. And I think.
Good. I'll let you answer it.
Perfect. I would love to take it. This is now the Josh Stubing show. So after I cut Todd off the meeting, no, what I would say is it's probably not my preferred method, but if there's context that we're missing, like you are, this is a complete necessity because you have a super limited budget and you're in an apartment or limited space brewer, then, this kind of project, no, how dare you? This kind of project.
No, it's funny because you're like, I think we do have enough information. Assuming that we have enough information.
Okay, shut up.
That's what you just said.
No, I agree with what you're saying. Don't put it too close to the element because it is going to read on the higher side. I don't think your thermal well in this small of a pot needs to be under the false bottom with your element. That's what I'm saying. I think it could be above it.
I would agree with that.
And I think you'll get your best readings in this kind of kettle if you put it, like Todd said, a third of the way up, a little bit under half, not between whatever a third and half is. That way, if you're not doing recirculation, you're going to get your closest accurate reading possible. But also, I would do what Todd does every brew day and constantly check with a calibrated thermometer to make sure that it's accurately reading.
Yeah.
Right. And then
I don't ever trust the temperature. I always have a thermometer all the time in there.
I know, it drives me crazy.
50 times while I'm brewing.
Drives me absolutely crazy when we're this broadtod that is so intricate and beautiful and calibrated, and then you still don't trust it.
I don't trust anything. Yeah.
Nick, first off, let me remind y'all, if and when you submit a question, we do give you a gift card. If it's through the email now, change of policy, you get a $15 gift card to KConnection.com. But if it's a voicemail, like our next one is, you get a $25 gift card to KConnection.com. Nick, when you have the time, email us any other context so that slightly less than sober Todd can better answer.
Listen, I haven't even drank. I haven't even had one beer. I am very sober.
He is very
Not even one beer. It's getting close to one beer now, but yeah.
Oh, I like that picture. You holding up the beer like that with your Carhartt beanie? That's going to be the screenshot for this episode.
I think we should get Carhartt to sponsor us. Hold on.
Todd's a hipster. Anyways, Nick, thank you so much for submitting the question. I hope we did something with that. Moving on to question number 2. It is a voicemail from our buddy Joe, who used our hotline at 325-305-6107.
Hi guys, Joe Whiting here in beautiful Skaneateles, New York. I'm an all-grain brewer, usually in an all-in-one system making ales. My basement brewery stays pretty constant at around 65 degrees, making ideal for ales. I love them, but sometimes I miss the crispness and bite of a lager. I have a converted upright that has a 3-tap system, thanks James, and room for 1 keg to cold crash or store. But until my wife lets me put yet another fridge in the basement, I really can't ferment at lager temps. Is there any way to get some of the lager characteristics fermenting at ale temps? My go-to yeast is Safe Ale 05. I have no problem trying another yeast if that might help, but just wonder if there are other procedures that might help. I don't have the space to build a little cold box or cold room, but is there a simple way to cool the fermenter? Anyway, love the podcast and even enjoyed your live brew day, although that's 4 hours I'll never get back. Seriously, though, guys.
I agree.
Gracias, y adios to amigo Jose.
Yeah, it's true. He'll never get that time back. Now, you have the capabilities to lager. You purposefully will clear out your conical on a glycol setup when you want to have a beer lager, or just cold conditioned lager if it's an ale and not a lager. Because remember, guys, those are two different things. Even though I conflate secondary and cold conditioning and lagering all as the same thing, but they're not. Anyways, what do you have for Joe before I throw James under the bus and talk about the primitive method of taping ice packs to the fermenter in a bag?
No, I mean, we actually did read this. We listened to this before the show because it was hard to, it didn't transcribe very well. And I think we made a very good decision that you're going to take this one.
No, I took the first one, sort of ish.
Yeah. I mean,
okay, let me drag this.
Okay.
Okay. Let me drag this one out. Joe, assuming that we have all the context of the variables and the he doesn't have the space. Here's what I would say. Actually, first and foremost, Google pseudo lager. A lot of people now. He is in New York and it is winter, so I don't know how well Kveik performs with his basement temps right now in the winter. But there are many people who swear by Lutra Kveik. I think it's Lutra, and I probably pronounced one of those words wrong. They swear by it in pseudo lagers, like crisp, total, nice biscuit aftertaste ales, because they mimic a lager. I would say take advantage of your basement and it being in winter right now. It would be very, very easy. I know I'll have a link in the show notes because I'll find it. More Beer for sure sells it. It's called like a cooler jacket. And I know buckets and carboys will fit in it. It's big enough for that. I think their photo shows a bucket with the airlock on it fitting inside of it. It's like an insulated Yeti type of nylon cooler that you could put your thing in, put ice packs in it, close it up, and boom. You're keeping it at a consistent temp for lagering, and or the more ice packs you add would be for cold conditioning, like when you get to that second stage of it. Because lagers, like, what do you think lagers on average ferment at? 54-ish? 52, 54?
Yeah, it depends on the yeast and the recipe and everything, but yeah.
So I would say that's what I would do. Is if I'm living up in because I imagine, we're complaining about the cold right now. I bet you where he's at in New York, it is much, much colder. And if his basement is a consistent 65 degrees year round, it won't take a lot to get it down another 10 degrees with like a cooling jacket insulator. And I believe they're only like $70 for it. So that would be a budget way of being able to lager in your current space without asking your wife to give you another fridge.
You're saying lager.
Mm-hmm.
When you say but I think you mean fermenting, right?
Ferment at lager temps. Pardon me. Yeah. I mean that.
Okay.
Yeah. Ferment at lager temps. And then that jacket. So he can start out, my understanding of that jacket is you put it in there and you add like an ice pack and that'll get it in the 50s or whatever. I mean, obviously there's other variables, but the more kind of ice pack stuff you add to it, then if you want to cold condition, and because, like even that lemon drop pills you made, you fermented at 52, I think you did 52 for a week. And then you let it sit at, what was the lowest you could get it to in your barn? Like 42, 44?
Yeah.
And you did that for another 2 weeks, right? Or
40. I can get. I mean, it depends on the time of year. Right now,
you got talking to the mic.
Down to 38.
Right. Okay. Right. But I'm saying though, like that's what most people with lagers after fermentation's done, they drop it and let it sit dropped for a month or for 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah.
I mean, long enough to clarify it. And,
right.
I always look at it. The last one I did was about a month.
Yeah. Right. And so I'm saying with that jacket, it'd be a budget way of him being able to ferment at the primary lager temps somewhere in the 50s, and then add more ice patch stuff to it and get it down to cold condition, because that's what you do with lagers. You let them cold condition for a while.
You lager them.
Right. Exactly. You lager them. But when I say, but you don't lager ales, you cold anyway. I'm not going to conflate words. I'm not arguing semantics today. That would be my budget step with his current situation. Obviously, the real solution is beg your wife for another fridge and put a lagering chamber in your basement as well. But that's off the table. You don't have room for it. You can't build it out, whatever. I would say look into that cooling jacket. And I'll have it in the show notes. If you're listening on any given podcast app, you can just go to the show notes from there, or go to homebrewhappyhour.com, find this episode, and I'll put a link to it. I think that might be one of his best bets. But let me tell you, I wish we could have gotten James. I wish he went to the office so that we could have had him on the show, because James, and I think this would work, it's just a lot of work. He used to put his fermenter in a tub and put those ice packs taped-ish or somehow around it, right? Wasn't that his go-to method for lagering?
Yeah, it's what he's told us.
You never saw it. I mean, this was before the CM Becker days. This was a much younger James Carlson. But I would love to I want him to do the filter video, and I want us to do the how to lager on an extreme budget video, because I think it would work. Even he did it, he's in North Central Texas, whatever y'all's region is called. I think I'm in Central Texas. You're in the Great Plateau? I forget.
No, they say Brownwood, the timbers, but they say Brownwood is the absolute center of Texas, but there's also about 50 other cities in Texas that say that.
That say that.
Yeah.
But so if James is able to do that method where y'all are at in Texas, it should work anywhere in the world. That method of in a bathroom, in a tub with ice packs that he swapped out twice a day.
Anywhere in the world where they have air conditioning in their house.
Oh, good point. Yeah, right. Totally. But that goes without saying. You have to have some temperature control. But with the context of him being in New York and it's winter, do you think that makes it easier for him to brew lager beers?
The problem is that he told us, didn't he tell us his basement stays at like 65 degrees?
Yes.
God, so close. I mean, he only needs a few degrees to be able to ferment, not to be able to lager. But he said he had a place to actually do the lager or cold crash, right? He just needs a place to ferment. He doesn't have to get down that much, Gosh,
that's why I think that jacket would be the answer for his current situation. That jacket, and like I said, it'll be in the show notes. 100%. Sometimes I say things on the show, and then people write me, "Hey, what about the hop chart you promised?" Oh yeah, crap. Go add it. It'll be there, guys. You go if you're in YouTube, go to the description below, and you'll see it. It's right there.
I mean, why can't he just get another fridge in his garage? I don't understand. He should have his wife call me, and I'll talk her into it.
That is the only solution, Joe. Please have your wife call Todd and let me know so I can record it, and we'll play it on a future listener feedback segment or something.
You need to be happy, and
it's all about you, Joe.
Yeah. It's all about you, Joe.
It should be all about you, which this is the same Joe. If y'all are unfamiliar, Joe Whiting was on our show in the Homebrewer Showcase. Phenomenal musician. Go check out that episode and listen to the song that I embedded in there. It was,
we listened to some of his music when we were having a few beers before Dry January.
Yes,
not the last time he came up, but before that. So he's a really good musician.
He's very good. We need to have him at the ranch so we can have a jam session. That's what we need to do.
We do.
But anyways, Joe, thank you so much for submitting your question. Let me know if your wife turns down Todd's idea, if you get the brewing jacket and it works for you. I'm interested because I've only read reviews, but everyone who has reviewed it says it works great. And with 05, you can continue using that. Just also you could Google Pseudo Logger Safeale 05, and you'll see a ton of stuff like on Homebrew Talk about people who are doing exactly what you're describing. So moving on to question number 3 was a text message from our buddy Samuel R at 325-305-6107. Samuel wrote, when using a jockey box, is it important that the beer is already cold, or will my ice down coil compensate enough? Man, I'm all muttermouth today. I'm going to take this one too first, because this show's all about my ideas. Yes, it is important that your beer is already cold. No, your coil will not compensate enough to overcome warm or lukewarm beer.
Right.
Right?
So am I up next?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. No, it is not important that your beer is not lukewarm. But the problem that we run into a lot of times is that we're in Texas, and people will say, hey, can I use my jockey box at an event in July? Well, that's not lukewarm. That's 105 degrees. And you're going to have some issues with foam and some other things, I think, if you do it that way. The whole point of a jockey box with a coil system or a cold plate is that you've got a lot of space there to cool the beer down. So you should be able to take a beer that's at room temperature and cool it down enough and get a good pour out of it. Because remember, like I'm looking at some coils I have over here on my desk, and they have 100 feet of, I think, 1/4 inch, or maybe it's 3. Well, I'd have to go look, but anyway, and then it shrinks down to a smaller size. I guess the idea there is that they're getting some compensation or some restriction out of that. So I think you'd be fine with it depends on what, I mean, lukewarm to me means, well, room temperature.
Right.
I mean,
me too. I agree.
70 degrees,
Yep.
75 degrees, something like that. I think you'd be fine with that, running it through a jockey box. I don't recommend letting your beer get to, Texas summer temperatures. I don't think it'd be good for your beer to start with. And I think it would be, you'd struggle a little bit to have enough ice to keep it cool and to bring it down. So,
right. And that's why there are some people who I've recommended in Texas where they have a shorter line using like the CMB event faucet off of a keg in the trash can surrounded by ice. And that's yielded better results than like a keg outside of ice, but with like a neoprene jacket going through a 50-foot coil. I mean, it can be contextual, right? Which one's a better solution for your area? Because you're right. When I say lukewarm, I also mean like 70, but I feel like keeping the beer cold, regardless of where it is the most important part to a good pour. So, or for a jockey box in this scenario. Like if your keg is starting off at 70 degrees and even going through that 50, are you just slowing down the pour to allow it to cool down? I mean, because 50 feet's not that.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, when you go through that much, you should be able to cool it down. You're going to always have to adjust your pour depending on, and you have to do that, by the way, with choker lines normally, unless you have flow control. But you would have to adjust your pour depending on what your temperature was going in and coming out. But I mean, the whole point of a jockey box is to be able to pour beer that's not already cold. If you've already got it on ice and it's 30, 33 degrees, 34 degrees, you don't need a jockey box. It's going to pour perfectly coming out of that.
I know what you're saying. You're right. So yeah, not trying to double down as much as, what am I trying to say? So for us, we agree that lukewarm is room temp or 70.
Yeah, 70 to 80, I would say. Lukewarm may be 80. More like, I don't know.
Dang.
I don't know.
So you think 80?
Lukewarm is warm to the touch? I mean, 70 wouldn't necessarily. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's going to have to Google Lukewarm temperature, because I don't know what that is.
Or reply and let us know in the comments your own experience. Let us know, like, yeah, Josh, you're an idiot. I took my beer to the lake last summer and it was 98 degrees outside, and after going through my 25-foot coil or my cold plate or whatever, it was pouring fine. I've never used a Jockey Bots myself. Now we have Keg Connection had a booth for a few years at some local craft beer thing in Brownwood, I think it was, or it might have been in Early or Dublin, one of those little towns, and always took your Jockey Bots because you had one there. You probably still have it in storage somewhere, and they always swore it worked fine, and we didn't put any fancy faucets on it or nothing. It was just very bare bone. We're just trying to serve our beer. And the only other Jockey Bots implementation I think we've ever done is the one at HomebrewCon. But our beer was kept cold for us, and when we were serving it, it never got probably above 65. It was, remember, because the AHA.
So the definition I found of lukewarm is 80 to 90 degrees.
Oh, I changed my opinion then on lukewarm. I don't think the 90-degree keg going through an ice box with a 50-foot coil is going to result in. I think it'll be a foamier pour than you'll enjoy.
So let's split the difference. 85. Do you think you could pour
85 is good. Oh, yeah. 85 is, yeah, definitely. No problem.
So, but 90 you couldn't. You're saying you couldn't pour 90 degrees and not have foam.
87 and up, no. It'll be foamy.
Okay. And you're willing to bet $5 on this?
How are we going to... Yeah, okay.
I have a Jockey Box. I have a coil. So, yeah.
Okay. I want to be there, though. You can't just
run. Oh, no. We're going to do it together. I can assure you, my friend.
Okay. Handshake, a virtual
handshake,
okay.
$5. We're going to pour foamless beer out of a Jockey Box.
At 90 degrees.
90 degrees.
90-degree keg.
Yep.
And how long the coil?
That's what we're going to do.
You're going to do a 50-foot coil?
I'm going to do, I think these are, actually, you're right. These may be 50... That may be 50-20. And then whatever these square ones are that are on my desk. And then a choker, of course.
Whoa. Okay, I
said that in the beginning.
You didn't say that in our virtual handshake.
I said that in the very beginning. I said you may have to adjust your choker hose.
For our experiment, it is just a keg at 90 degrees going through a ice down coil.
That's impossible. You have to have a choker.
Okay.
You can't even feed you can't feed the Jockey Box with that one.
Okay, now describe what a choker is for the people at home.
A choker is a 3/16 line that you adjust depending on what you want your restriction to be. And you'd have to do a choker and adjust it anyway, because otherwise you could pour way too fast or way too slow. So you would always, have the ability to adjust that.
Okay. I shook with different pretense, but I shook. We'll do it.
Yeah, and you did listen to what I said in the beginning, so I did say you would have to adjust it with
to be fair, that's probably not true. I wasn't listening when you were talking.
That's your $5.
We'll see about that. Samuel, I would not sweat it, and I think, no pun intended with Jockey Bots, I think that if your beer is reasonably cold, but you're in your choker line that's so important, even though this is honestly probably the first time I've heard the use of that phrase. I don't remember us doing chokers at HomebrewCon when we had that Jockey Bots one year.
We definitely had one.
I believe
we had line going from the keg to the Jockey Box.
No, I totally remember that. I do now remember that because when we got there, helped set it up.
Now, to be fair, I don't know that we used small line because we were using CM Becker flow control.
No,
faucets.
that's why we didn't. We didn't use small line at all. We were using nice V10s. The nicest Jockey Bots ever created in the history of Jockey Bots is. I'll have to find that photo because that was like HomebrewCon 2017 or something. But
yeah.
You're right. That was. I do remember now. I'm going to lose $5, but
anyway, yes, you are, my friend.
Samuel, thank you so much for submitting the question. Moving on to our fourth and final question from our buddy Matthew, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Matthew wrote, "Hi guys, awesome podcast. Have you ever split a 5-gallon batch into too many kegs? I started kegging last week and I love it, but this recent peanut butter stout I brewed tastes different depending on which keg I tap from. I noticed it almost immediately after forced carbonating. The entire batch was fermented in my trusty bucket and was only split up when it came time to keg. These are 2 brand new kegs, so I don't know what could be going on. One keg tastes more bitter than the other, and I'm clueless as to why. Matthew, this one has me scratching my head. I reached out to him. This was a fairly fresh question, only because I doubt you could tell the difference that quick in forced carbonating. Like, I think that might be a placebo brain psychological effect or something, because I don't see how forced carbonating could change the bitterness of the keg. But to answer it going chronologically, Todd splits up batches all the time. That's almost exclusively what he does with brewing. But if it's not in the conical, it's usually in buckets, and that's 1 bucket per keg. But in the conical, you take 1 batch and you put it between 3 kegs. Have you ever had a end result different from the 3 kegs you've done from 1 conical?
No, but I think there's 2 possibilities. If I had to this is just a scientific wild ass guess. One would be, one has a different carbonation level than the other, and it's the carbonic acid that he's tasting, the difference in that. And my second would be that maybe he somehow oxidized one more than the other, and that's the difference in taste he's getting.
But would you notice it that quick into kegging?
Did he say exactly how long?
Well, no. Okay. I mean, here's my assumption. He hasn't replied to me, and I didn't ask this, but maybe Matthew, you'll answer for me without me having to have directly asked. I imagine he put it in the keg and then forced carbed. Some people do cold condition in a keg for a week or 2, and then they force carb. I don't know why. If mine's in the keg after fermentation's complete, I'm force carbing it. Whether I dispense from it or not is a whole separate thing. I might let it sit, but it's going to be pressurized at that point and ready to serve when I'm ready to consume it. But
when have you ever let it sit?
That Kolsch that I took over to my pops finally, I let it sit for a week before I broke into it.
You didn't try it, really?
No, I did during forced carbing because I had the CMB event faucet.
Yeah.
So I did try it then. But I'm saying I doubt Matthew kegged his batch and let it sit for a period of time to where oxidation would then present itself. That's what I'm countering to you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I think your carbonic acid.
The carbonic acid.
I think that's what it has to be if those were the only options, because I can't think of anything else other than, again.
So this beer, it's gone. This beer here.
This beer that was here.
When I first tasted it, I went, it's good. And then I carbonated it, and it was spectacular. Spectacular. So the carbonation really made a big difference in the flavor.
Yeah, and we've had that happen with other batches too, where adding the carbonation made all the difference in the world.
Yeah, and we had a beer on my tap for a while that for whatever lazy reason, it wasn't carved quite enough, and we drank several of them, and then I was like, I'm going to carb that a little more. And we carved it a little more, and I was like, damn, it's a lot better.
I do remember that. It was a whole different beer. I mean, I'm exaggerating.
So that would be my guess, is that he just got one carb differently than the other. Especially if it was immediate. If it was immediate difference, he may have carved one more than the other, or he had cockeyed in one of the kegs.
That's not possible. Yeah, when I first read this, my thought always goes to hygiene. I was thinking, maybe one keg was infected, but it wouldn't be that instantaneous. It wouldn't be.
Well, you don't know that it was instantaneous.
Well, I'm saying he wrote, I noticed it almost immediately after forced carbonating.
Oh, after forced carbonating.
Yeah,
okay.
That implies it was very quick.
It does.
I mean, it doesn't imply, pardon me. It blatantly states.
It's got to be either carbonation or he had something nasty in one of the kegs. And I doubt he had something nasty. I highly doubt.
Well, because he also made it a point to say these are 2 brand new kegs. He would have probably said, these are 2 kegs I use all the time. Never had this happen. This poor guy, Matthew, got 2 new kegs. I don't think he got them from us, so it's not our problem. And he put his 5-gallon batch, and one of them is more bitter. Now, I will say with the stout, there's worse off flavors or worse deals taste to deal with than one being a little more bitter than the other. But
Yeah.
it could be possible to hear me out. Do you think maybe in one keg he drew some stuff from the bottom and that presented itself in the first pour that might not be there?
Oh, absolutely.
And it might
Yeah,
not be
that
there
could
in consequential pours, because remember we've had that too with first pour being not that, oh no, and then because it was the first pour, kind of drew some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of expect it now. I those kegs that I kegged last night. I'm always putting my wand down and hitting the yeast and going up and pulling it up a little bit. So, you got that much yeast in there, right? And I figure if I let that keg sit for a couple of weeks, because one of them I'm drinking now, but one of them, let's say it sits for a while, that's eventually is going to settle out and it's going to come into my first pour. I would just be surprised if it was in his first pour after he forced carbonated, because he was obviously shaking them back and forth and agitating the beer. So I wouldn't think it would be in that first pour.
Good point. Unless he got enough in that one keg. Like, let's say that was the first keg he was drawing from the bottom, and that stuff all happened to be in just that one keg. So it presented itself as being more bitter. That's not, I'm trying to, I'm
going to guess I'm going to guess it's a carbonic acid difference.
And we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, friends, or email Joshua at Homebrew Happy Hour, or leave a feedback voicemail at 325-305-6107 and let us know if you've run into this, what it might be in your experience, and what the resolution ends up being. But I think, Todd, you're probably on the money where it's just different carbonation levels between the two kegs. But yeah, splitting up batches is a very common thing. I don't know people, I mean, literally commercial breweries, that's every batch, right? They're splitting it up. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think splitting it up would matter at all. I mean, if it was you, I would think it was that stupid dog of yours peed in it while you had your back turned, but yeah.
Hey, didn't he lick some of the grains in the alt beer that we made?
Oh yeah, he did. He does everything bad all the time.
And he pooped in the break room floor. I turned my back for a minute, and then Brenda comes in and goes, "Ay, su perro está acá." And I was like, "What?" Had to run in there. Oh my God, he pooped on the floor. He was in there for 30 seconds.
Oh no, yeah, he pooped on the floor the time before when he was here.
He did. He's an alpha male. What can I say?
Yep. That's how he marks his spot. He's confused.
He's confused. Anyway, Matthew, thank you so much for submitting your question. Todd, that's all I have for us this week. You didn't have to drive into the office to do the show, but now I knew you did it to do orders, so I won't give you too hard a time. Our customers probably appreciate you, so thank you for your time. Oh, and all Trub Club recipes for January got out before the winter storm. You should have received them. I did them. I went upstairs. I bagged the grains. I milled the grains. I bagged the hops. I packed the hops. I packed the yeast. Unless you receive it in a bad condition, then it was probably Todd.
I have to say something, and anybody that's listened to this show for a long time is going to have a hard time hearing me say this. But Josh worked really, really hard to get all these out this week.
I did.
He really busted it and got them all done and got them all out on his own. I've never seen the man work so hard. He did it for you guys.
The best compliment I got was from James, because I was running shipping at the second shipping station for just Trub Club, and I was beep, beep, type. I mean, I was typing up storm and shipping and measuring and this and that. When I got done, he was just like, "Oh my God, that was so fast." I was like, "Yeah, I hope I didn't mess anything up." So
yeah. The funny part is, like 3 weeks from now, I want to be like, "Hey man, can you print a couple shipping labels for me?" And you're going to go, "I don't know how to print shipping labels."
You're absolutely right. I will. Shoot. Yeah, that's right. That's right, Skipper. You know I will. But anyways, thank you for your time, Todd. I'll see you soon. Thank you. And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submitted question link at the top of the page. Or now you can call them in or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsor, Imperial Yeast. You'll get a free pack of Imperial Yeast with your monthly recipe kit when you join our Chub Club. So go to homebrewhappyhour.com/club or patreon.com/homebrewhappyhour to learn more. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.